In this video, we are going to discuss how to create a project in Microsoft Visual Studio 2013, in this case, the Ultimate Edition. This might seem like it should be relatively self-explanatory and straightforward, but there are a couple tricks to this, and if we don't follow these steps exactly, then we will run into errors and our project will break and we won't know exactly why. So please pay close attention to exactly what happens here, because there are, like I said, a couple steps that are absolutely vital to getting your program to work. So in order to create a new project, we have two options from this start page, which we get to just by running Microsoft Visual Studio 2013. So if we go down and click on this, it will bring us up to this window. And so we can either click this new project right here under the Start menu, or we can go up to File, New, Project, and then this is very important that we make sure that first of all we're selected on Visual C++. As you can see, there are other languages and other options, but we don't want to use those. We're using Visual C++, and we want to make sure that we select a Win32 console application. What a Win32 console application is it's a Windows 32-bit application which runs from our console window. So if we were to run command prompt, it will end up running in a window that looks similar to this. And so we click Win32 console application, and then generally we'll want to name it something a little bit more explanatory than console application 1, or a little more descriptive. But in this case, we're just creating a project to create a project to see how it works. So we're going to go ahead and leave that as console application 1. Another thing that is important to note is the location. By default, it should be saving in the Documents folder and then Visual Studio 2013/projects. So if we follow this down, let's see, so here's Documents, Visual Studio 2013, Projects, and then it will create a new folder for us here. You may want to change the default location for you, but it is generally recommended to leave it in this location. Either way, it is definitely very important to know exactly where your project is being saved so that you can go back and view the files later and so that you know exactly what's happening. So we go ahead, and after we've selected Win32 console application, given it a name, and noticed the location, we go ahead and press OK. And now we are met with this Win32 Application Wizard window. And so it's very, very important. Do not just select Finish here. That will result in an error. Do not click Finish. Instead, what we want to click is Next. And this gives us a list of application settings. And so we're able to select the application type. We have additional options. We can add common header files, which we don't need to worry about this right now. For application type, as we mentioned before, we want to create a console application, so an application that runs in the console. For additional options, this is very important that we click Empty Project. We don't want anything that Visual Studio is just going to add in for us by default. In this case, we just want an empty project. So console application, empty project. Those are the two things that we need to make sure are selected here. And then we can go ahead and click Finish. Then it will process for just a moment, and then it will populate our Solution Explorer here for us and have this empty window for us. So as you can see right now, there's no text area for us to code. And so we're going to need to add a source file, is what it's called, and we'll do that in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at exactly what's going on here on the left. So we have this Solution Explorer, and what this lets us see is that there's this solution, console application 1, and it says 1 project. So there's a hierarchy of files when we create a C++ project in Microsoft Visual Studio. The top level is that we have this solution. And then below and to the solution, we are able to add projects. So as you can see right here, it says that there's only 1 project in the solution. So we've got a solution, we've got our 1 project, and now, as I mentioned before, we now need to have a source file where we are able to actually write code. And so to do this, we right-click on Source Files, we click Add, we click New Item, and the keyboard shortcut is Control-Shift-A. So we click New Item, And then we're met with this window, this Add New Item window. And as you can see, there's a list of options over here, whether installed or online, and we just, under installed, we'll click Visual C++. And by default, it should just show us these two options, a C++ file or header file. As you go down, you can see other options like code or utility, and this can be useful for adding text files or a C++ unit test class, other things of that nature. But in this case, all we want is a simple C++ .cpp file. And so we go ahead and we click on that, and then we're allowed to name this. And so we can name the file whatever we want. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as source.cpp, but you may want to name it something different depending on what exactly you're going to be using it for. So we name it, and then we click Add. And then we are met with this window with a cursor, so you can see that we are now able to begin typing C++ code. And so I'll run through this again just very quickly so we can see the entire process. So we do File, New Project, Win32 Console Application. I'll just leave the name as Console Application 2. I want to double check that it's going to my Documents Visual Studio 2013 Projects folder, and it is. So I click OK. And then we're brought back to this Win32 Application Wizard. I resist the urge to press Finish. I click Next. Console Application, Empty Project, those are both selected. Now I can press Finish. And then now I need a place to write code once again. So I right-click Source Files, I click Add New Item, C++ file.cpp. I will name it, or I'll just leave this name, source.cpp. I click Add, and I'm good to go.